You guys ready?
Yep, let's go.
All right, we are live. We'll give people a couple seconds here. So, Linda, we live stream this straight into our Facebook group, where we have 700 people who are members, and so they're all going to be tuning in right now inside of Facebook. So that's happening right now. So we're live streaming right now.
Awesome. Well, I wouldn't have been in my tacky Christmas gear, but otherwise we're good to go.
Hey, this is perfectly festive. It is that time of year. Everybody's gonna love seeing the festive gear. So why don't we start really quickly from the beginning here while people are tuning in. So we're up to about 10 people tuned in right now, Linda. And you kind of were giving us a little bit of a insight into why you think this is an important conversation, the psychology of a listing presentation. So first and foremost, why don't you take a minute to introduce yourself? What's your background like? How long you've been in the business? And then let's swing into why you think this conversation is important.
My name is Linda Okaneski. I'm the CEO of Leading Edge Real Estate. If I had my druthers, I would just do training for my agents all day long. I feel like in the industry, there's two kinds of training. There is training on lead generation, super important. And there's a lot of training on compliance. Like I think of the Caldwell bankers, they don't like to get sued. They're really great at compliance training. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a big opening in the entire industry for strategic training, for thinking differently, and for building not just a mindset, but really working on your body, mind, and your intellectual property that you use when you're selling real estate. So I take kind of a holistic approach. I think we rely a little bit too much on lead generation and not on ourselves. Who are we presenting? How are we micro messaging? What are we putting out to the world that attracts more business to us? And I'll talk about that in a little bit when we talk about boot camps, because I think self-awareness, we're sadly not particularly self-aware of.
So Linda, just before we went live, we were talking about the psychology of the listing, and you were talking a little bit about how you have done this differently and how it was very successful for you while you were actively engaged in listing and selling. And I'd love for you to share that with the group. And Paul and I are just going to sit back and I love listening to you. I love your passion. And I love that you're bringing something like this to the industry.
Well, thank you. This is, I became an accidental speaker, never intended to, but I was at a big event for our former franchise when the keynote speaker didn't show up. And they approached me and said, Linda, do you have anything that you could present tomorrow at 8:30 in the morning? And I was like, I don't have real clothes, but let me see what I can come up with. And I had been doing this training, which I started to call the psychology of listing, because, I feel that too many agents walk into listing appointments like self-promotional jerks. And I think it's a turnoff. They forget that it's really about the client and not them. That's all the client cares about is themselves. And so I also was really getting good. At the time, I was averaging about 90 listings a year. And I thought, how can I get a client to want to hire me on the first phone conversation? How can I distinguish myself from anybody else they talk to? Because typically when someone wants to sell their home, they call an agent, and an agent has a 3 to 5 minute conversation on, nice to talk to you, tell me a little bit about you, what do you want to do, where do you live, what time should we meet? And I thought, that is the biggest blown opportunity. You only have that chance to make a first impression once. And how can you be so fundamentally different than anyone else? How can you get them to want to list with you before you've discussed price, commission, or you've seen the house? And you have to get inside their head, right? And you can't do it by telling them what to do. Because I've never met anyone. If I said to you, Greg, who do you like to be told what to do? You're not going to raise your hand. Nope. And yet we walk into listing appointments all the time, telling people what to do. And so the psychology of listing is based in motivational interviewing. If you need help, you go to a therapist, but they don't tell you what to do, right? You ask enough questions so they come to good conclusions. And in this case, it's about price, about preparing the house for market, about cooperating and understanding how the market is. So I've set a list of 26 questions that you should ask on the phone. And I will tell you right now, if someone called you and said, do you have time to answer 26 questions? They would say no, flat out. So you don't ask. But the other issue with too many real estate agents is they talk all the time. They talk too much. So on this first interview that you'd want to use, you let the seller do the talking. And I'll tell you, they'll give you all the time you need if you let them do the talking. And so I am presenting a class. I'm opening it up to my friends in the broker council. I've gotten to know Greg over the last couple of years. And I think a few years ago, I was talking about this class because my former franchise, once I started doing it, sent me all over the world to do it. I mean, so this plays in Istanbul or Berlin or Rome because human nature is the same everywhere, even though they conduct real estate differently. And I will tell you, as a point of pride, when my former franchise was doing their 10th year anniversary, they picked the best speaker each year to speak at their 10th anniversary. And I was invited back to be one of their top 10 speakers. So, and this stuff works. So I'm offering the class for free. I'm offering it on December 27th, which turns out to be a Tuesday. We're doing that at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And with that class, we'll go through those 26 questions. And I will actually give everyone the 26 questions. But what you want to do is take copious notes because I don't give you the answers or how to respond, kind of the background for them. It'll take just over an hour. And I want to confess, it might be seen as a little self-serving, but I'm also going to be running a boot camp in January, and we can talk more about that.
Wonderful. So, well, I am, when I saw your email, I was very intrigued. And again, we're trying to help the agent community, number one, stand out. Number two, increase their hit ratio. We're not getting as many shots today as we did. And so your percentage hit has got to be higher. You can't afford to miss these opportunities. And and I know that you've been extremely successful with this plan. And I know that I never created something along the lines of what you're talking about, but I do know that I was always trying to figure out how to set myself apart. Mm-hmm. And I do know that questions have always been the key to distinguishing. One of our top agents, maybe several of them do this, but the typical thing an agent would do would walk in the house, they'd have their clipboard or whatever, and they'd start walking around from room to room, and they'd have their briefcase with them maybe, and the customer clients thinking, okay, what do we got going on here? And so I'm aware of an agent who said, I prefer to walk in with absolutely nothing in hand and just sit down and say, hey, let's just sit down. Well, it kind of parallels a little bit what you're doing here in my mind, in that the idea was there's, again, you're setting yourself apart, number one, right? And so I love the idea of having these prepared questions instead of winging it, which, a lot of us can get pretty good at winging it. But at the same time, when you wing it, you could miss. And you could do a flyover or a flyby instead of actually, landing on the target here. And so I think what you're talking about with these 26 questions, and again, what's the ultimate thing that you're trying to do with these questions? are you building relationship? Is it the building of the relationship? Is it cementing your professionalism? Is it, how do you look at that, Linda?
I think it's all of the above plus more, right? So I once heard a speaker say, I'm just going to put you in this place. Have you ever been to a party when you get cornered by someone who can't wait to talk to you, right? And they are showing you their vacation photos. They are, telling you about all their ailments. You can't escape, and you feel like you get home, you talk to your spouse and say, oh my God, that person drove me crazy. I can't believe the whole night was ruined. All they did was talk to me. What I do know is that person goes home and says, I love Linda. You listen to me all night long, right? That's how it works.
Yeah.
So I think you are building, they're going to like you more. I have had agents who resisted doing this, like taking the time on the phone to ask all the questions, and then decided, I'm just going to try it this time. And they went, oh my God, I built so much trust. They like me more. But really, at the end of the day, they were developed so that I would have a cooperative client that didn't resist and try to sabotage themselves, because that's what sellers do. They want to price it too high. They don't want to paint. They don't want to stage. They don't want to refresh anything in their house. And at the end of this process, they'll understand that they don't have to do any of that, but their results will be different if they choose not to.
So you get the invite to come over and list the place. You don't have to have a bidding war with another agent, because you've set the stage. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that they still won't call 3 other people out. What I will tell you is that I have seen sellers cancel seeing other people after having a conversation like this. They feel so much more taken care of, listened to, and a good agent doesn't have one plan for everyone. You're going to come back after you meet with them with a tailored plan, because you actually understand their goals, their motivation, their timing. And you've asked them a lot of questions about their property that no one else is asking. If you see the questions, you'll say, no one asked this. And you're also positioning yourself to get a property that will sell. Now, Greg, it doesn't solve the at-bat issue. And unless you're doing such a great job, people want to refer you. When you distinguish yourself, right? Because we know this market. If we sold 6.1 million houses last year, no, I'm going to sell 4.8 or 4.9. I know in our market, which is a vigorous market, just the last quarter, we're seeing 23% fewer sales compared to this time last year. We are just about, I think this month it was about 26% down. Right. So in order to just maintain your lifestyle, your profitability, your income, you have to eat someone else's lunch. And the only way you're going to do that is to be, I think, better than the agents that are out there. Yeah. So, Paul, do you have a question?
Well, I was just going to say that, like, one of the things I think that, when we think about growing your sphere, if you're talking to an agent who doesn't have a whole lot of at-bats, well, getting your first at-bat or your second at-bat and nailing that, and doing such a good job for those people, asking the right questions, like you say, differentiating yourself in such a fantastic way, will lead to more at-bats. I think that you underestimate this, right? Like, you need to nail this, because people are only going to go out of their way to refer you if they really truly thought you were an exceptional person.
Amen.
So, all right. So the first thing that we want to say to the agents is that you're going to do this free talk on the psychology of a listing coming up here. Did you say, let's repeat the date again? Tuesday, December 27th, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll take just over an hour. All right. 11 a.m. All right. And then second,
we'll get a link from you on this, and we can share it with the team here.
Yes.
All right. And then secondly, you have something else happening. And I'd like you to talk a little bit about that.
Sure. I would say back in 2004, people started asking me, Linda, how are you getting so many listings? How are you doing this much business? And so I kind of spontaneously said, I'm running a little boot camp. Why don't you come? And at the time, even my competitors were sending people to boot camp just to be trained. It was kind of funny. And I had one broker owner pay for his entire, he had a small office, like 20 some agents, to come to Linda O boot camp. But now they don't send them anymore, because that's the number one reason people join the company now, is because of a lot of the training. So in January, when we start January 6th, it's going to be live streamed. I'm going to do 5 classes. January 6th through the 20th. It's on Wednesdays and Fridays. It runs from 10 to noon. And I run Linda O boot camp, and it's very holistic. We're going to open up with happiness a little bit, because it turns out there are great Harvard studies. Happier people sell more real estate. And so we're actually going to talk about the dynamics of how you can raise your happiness set point. Paul, you might have woken up here this morning. Give me 2.5, 3 weeks. I'll get you to here.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So I want to admit there's homework every night. Won't take you long. It's going to encompass a little lead generation and a little self-care. That's how it starts. I have 6 guest speakers that'll be speaking with me. If anyone wants to check it out, it's lindaobootcamp.com. We're opening up with something on self-awareness. Think about all the people, they all have flaws. Some of them are cheap, some of them are very aggressive, some people are negligent and lazy. It seems that everyone has some flaws except for you. Well, we're perfect, right? So as a result of that, I feel like we really should start boot camp out this year thinking and really evaluating who we are. Are we self-aware? And I won't do a spoiler here, but we are going to have a dinner of truth, just to let you know. The other thing that's available to you, there's 5 sessions. The second one, I'm very excited about the second session. We're going to talk about Bud Winters. Nobody ever heard of him, but he's the winningest college coach of all time, but it was for track and field. He created more world record holders and Olympians than any other coach in history. He comes from training fighter pilots. We're going to take that training to our agents at the second boot camp.
Awesome.
So that's how it unfolds.
So I'm listening to this. And so what I find amazing about this is that, I spent a lot of money traveling, staying in hotels, renting cars, and you're going to be bringing this to the agents. And am I correct? The price tag?
It's virtual, right? So I'm already paying, and my agents pay for it locally. Yeah. So because of the broker council, I thought I'm going to reach out for $99. Anyone of your people could sign up. Yeah. They'll be part of the Facebook group. And then we didn't talk about this yet, but between Paul and Greg, at boot camp, there are activities. You could run 5-star activities. All right. Let me tell you about the activities. So back in Boston, we're going to walk along the Esplanade. We're going to have a walk in the woods. We went online and said, what are free things we could do as a group? Where we found some music bingo at a local Sam Adams brewery. But my favorite thing we're going to do, and I highly recommend if you do no other activity, is we're having a moth up. If you don't know what a moth up is, it is a NPR show. It's storytelling. And everyone who comes to the moth up, it's voluntary, comes prepared to tell a 5-minute story. You get picked from a hat. You're not going to be able to, everyone won't be able to share their stories, but it will be one of the most fun and interesting things you could do with your colleagues. It's a great team building and bonding experience to find out what people's stories are. And it dovetails with another boot camp where we're going to talk about narratives. I want to talk about how you communicate. How can you be effective? How do you open? How do you close? So that's one of the boot camps. So you're going to find the psychology of listing is very, very, very real estate specific. And we'll have some of that in boot camp too. I have an agent locally who's going to do a whole thing on why I get paid more than you do.
Mhm.
She's regularly getting more commission than the average agent. What is she doing and how is she doing it? And she's not one of those wildly expressive agents. She's more of a methodical, analytical person. She understands her value. So the boot camp speakers will be good. They're local. Most of them are from my office. I don't know if you know David Davin. She's been all the stages of Inman. She's going to do a piece at the last boot camp. So it is this, I would call it a 2-week journey together. We'll have 5 classes and you'll put in all kinds of activities and people will do homework every night just to start your year off right. Right.
I love your timing.
Yeah, it's good timing.
Great timing. So,
And for $100, I think, gosh, I'm sure it'll be action packed. But I mean, I look at $100 and I think, man, if I can get like even like one little tiny thing for $100 that I can put right into my business, that is super affordable. So I think that's a great price.
let me just say to any agents who either see this live or see it taped later, that you know, as I think about all of us, we can all learn every day. And one of the keys, I think, to being successful is remaining teachable. And so it is the top agents will humble themselves and to try to learn from somebody else. And so I'm looking at this as an incredible opportunity. Linda, I'm so glad that you reached out to us, friends of yours from TBC, our little group, and given us this opportunity. And I am thrilled, and I'm hoping that we just have a ton of agents show up here on that. Say the date one more time.
Sure. The psychology listing is the 27th at 11 o'clock via Zoom, and boot camp starts January 6th. I will tell you the other origin story of boot camp was, you know, if you're making $50,000 a year, how can I get you to 100? If you're making 100, how do you get to 250? If you're making 250, you want to get to 5. And those who are at 5, we want to go to $1 million.
Yep.
I have several $1 million producers who come to boot camp every year. So I thought it was just to train them up, but they're there for a little accountability or a little inspiration. You'll get so many ideas, you can't implement them. Just find the few nuggets that resonate with you and put them into practice.
Sounds
awesome. Well, we will absolutely try and get as many people as we can into the 27th, the free session, and then hopefully they'll join the boot camp too, because we think this is going to be really good. And we're so thankful you took your time out of your day to be here with us today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Hey,
okay, cool. So,
hopefully you get over the cold, and Merry Christmas.
yeah,
Merry Christmas. And I will not be this tacky at any of our.
Well, everybody watching, we will get you all the information needed for this, and we'll get those links out to you so you guys can join. And Linda, thank you so much.
Take care.
See you guys later.
Take care.
Thanks, Linda.
Bye.